Welcome to Human Potential at Work, the show where we explore social impact, inclusion, and empowerment of everyone, including persons with disabilities. Your host is Debra, CEO of Rue Global Impact and co-founder and chairwoman of Billion Strong, an identity and empowerment organization designed to bring billions of voices of persons with disabilities together. To join the global community and to donate to the cause, visit billion-strong.org. That's billion-strong.org. And now, on to the episode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Debra Rue, and I'm the CEO of, I was going to say Billion Strong. That's not right. I'm actually the CEO of Rue Global Impact and the executive chair and co-founder of Billion Strong. And so welcome to Human Potential at Work. Today, I have a very interesting man on. Love what he's doing. Love how his vision is to change the world together. He is also a medical doctor. And let me start by doing a quick visual description. I am a Caucasian or white woman, older, and I have gray hair and I have purple streaks in it. And today I have on red glasses and a black and white dress. And I'm very excited to introduce to you Dr. Arslan Abtahi. And we are really proud to be working with him on an effort he's working on, a global effort called Symphony. So he's going to talk to you about that. But before he starts talking about all that, Arslan, do you mind introducing yourself to the audience and telling them a little bit more about yourself and also maybe giving a visual description as well?
Absolutely. I'm a Persian man. I'm 35 years old. I have long black hair, brown eyes, black beard, and I'm wearing a pair of tortoiseshell glasses, a white button-down shirt, and a black suit jacket. I'm also wearing my SDG lapel pin, which we'll get into later. So that was, I guess, the visual description.
Yes. And we got SDG pins because you got yours. And we're like, oh, we want an SDG pin because we all believe in the SDGs. But tell us more about who you are. I know you are a doctor, but what kind of doctor? I don't know things like that.
Sure. So by education, I'm a medical doctor, and most of my work and research is at the intersection of mental health, sustainable development, and regenerative urban design. I'm a big believer that as human beings, we are all far more alike than we are different. So if you think about it, we all use our sensory organs to receive inputs from the environment around us. And we process those inputs and respond by generating outputs, which is very much like how a mirror works, if you think about it. We even have mirror neurons in our brain that the way I explain how they work is, if I start smiling right now and you are observing me, your brain acts as if you were smiling, even though you're not smiling. So, that's how connected we are. So we can really see the importance of the environment around us, and every single input that comes to our nervous system is shaping who we are. All the physical, mental, emotional, electromagnetic inputs that are received those are the things that shape us and turn into our identity and turn into our behavior. And there's great work done by Dr. Bruce Lipton about epigenetics and how our behaviors and environment can cause changes that even affect the way our genes work. That's why when I finished medical school, I decided instead of just diagnosing people and labeling them with weird names and giving them drugs to shut down their symptoms, I wanted to mostly focus on the environment around them. So instead of diagnosing people, I diagnosed the environment around them. And then instead of treating people, I treat the environment. And I'm sure by doing that, we can also alleviate some of the symptoms. So I'm all about going after the root cause of the problem and not just shutting down the symptoms, because if you think about it, our symptoms are actually great. They are our allies. They are part of a built-in intelligence system that is alarming us with signals such as pain and depression, so that we change. So when something needs to be changed around us, those signals help us to change everything that needs to be changed. And again, I'm a big believer that by simply changing the inputs from the environment around us, we can heal our body, we can heal our mind, and we can heal ourselves and heal each other. So that's really what my approach is. And that's why most of my focus. Yeah. So that's why most of my focus is on the environment, because on a small scale, our environment is our home, our car, our office, and all the places we go to. On a larger scale, we have our communities, neighborhoods, and cities, and even countries on the planet. So the more we focus on increasing the quality of those environments, the better outcomes we can expect to have.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that you feel the same way. We've both already talked briefly about the SDGs, but as we're really tearing apart the world, I think this is a really good time to really rethink the world. I was talking yesterday at an event for CTIA, it's the wireless group here in the United States, and we were just talking about making sure that they include people with disabilities, make sure you're including the older people, make sure, and I said, really, what y'all should make sure you're doing is designing for humans. Because if you design with all the senses in mind, let's stop always having it be an additional thing we got to do. Oh, yeah, don't forget about, no. What would happen if we designed with all of our senses in mind so that we could really have an immersive environment? We could really have an accessible environment. And I know that's something that you really care about as well. But I like how you looked at it from the human perspective as well, from the patient, you know, how, because I know there's just a lot of stuff we're rethinking, but why did you decide to create Symphony and try to, because what you're trying to do, what you're going to do, I have no doubt, is a huge global effort. And I love that you named it Symphony, just because that is actually, I believe, what you're doing. You're choreographing and you're conducting and you're bringing leaders together from all over the world to have the most positive impact on the planet and all of the other earthlings, which include our humans. So tell us more about Symphony.
Yeah, so Symphony is an incubator. It's basically a point of convergence for all the fragmented solutions that are required to enable the creation of what we refer to as inclusive, sustainable, smart cities, because that's what we are about to create, right? So we have a global task force shaped by technologists, scientists, policy experts, and social entrepreneurs. We basically find some of the most extraordinary problem solvers on the planet and help them weave their solutions together so that together we can offer holistic solutions to cities around the world and make them more inclusive, sustainable, and also smarter. So that's what Symphony is all about. Because if you think about it,
Yes.
when we think of a multidimensional ecosystem such as a city, you need all sort of solutions. You need solutions for education, for healthcare, for energy, all sort of infrastructure. So it's like really about finding all these right solutions, bringing them together and make them work in concert so that we can have a multidimensional experience.
I agree. But I often see smart cities and smart communities being created that I do not think they're smart because they're not inclusive. So why does it matter to you that everybody be included?
That's exactly our point, and our argument is sometimes we need to redefine terms, right? So when we talk about a smart system, I don't think we have any smart cities on the planet right now. We have advanced systems, but being advanced and being smart are two different things. So if you have a system that doesn't take care of the environment around it, if you have a system that doesn't take care of the people that live within that system or all the habitats, that's not a smart system. It might be a very advanced system, technologically advanced, but it's not smart. Just my analogy is sometimes we find cancer cells in our body, which are very advanced. They're advanced enough to take the entire system down, but that doesn't mean they're smart, because if they were smart, they could see that by taking down this ecosystem, they're actually committing self-suicide. And that's in a lot of ways what we human beings are doing to our planet. We think we are smart, but we're just self-destroying ourselves and committing a collective suicide. So I think that it's very important to redefine what smart means. And again, instead of only focusing on the technology side and thinking that by connecting devices together we can have a smart system, start thinking that It's all about inclusion. It's all about accessibility. It's all about sustainability. If these are not part of the system, that system is not smart.
I agree. I agree. So well said. And how are you tying the SDGs into your efforts?
Yeah, when we talk about inclusive, sustainable smart cities, or ISSCs in short, we say that these inclusive, sustainable smart cities have four major pillars. One is that they are designed based on a sustainable social architecture. Another is that they are zoned based on sustainable development, which is your question. We think that SDGs are a really great framework to be used as a mechanism to zone future cities. So if you think about it, in today's world, cities are zoned based on a hierarchical social architecture. So lower class, middle class, upper class, and that's how we zone cities. We said, what if we start using sustainable development as a mechanism to do that zoning system? So instead, we have zones for education, zones for healthcare, zones for energy. So that's how we tie it together. So to create what we refer to as sustainable development zones, created based on sustainable development goals.
Yes. And as a reminder to everybody, there are 17 sustainable goals, SDGs, and you can find it at www.globalgoals.org or just do a search on SDGs. But it's something we should all know about. And I believe we should all be working together to solve these problems, which I know Arslan feels the same way.
Absolutely.
So tell me more about inclusive smart cities.
Yeah, like I said, inclusivity and accessibility are part of design, right? So if we start creating a DNA of a system, and within that DNA, we don't think about including every member of that society to the picture, later on, we need to spend a lot more resources and energy to fix the problem. Whereas if from the get-go, we start having that as part of our design and don't only design for people who have certain characteristics that are considered normal, but bring everyone to the picture. I think that's just very basic. That's just very basic human right.
I agree. And we're not doing it. It's so basic and we're not doing it. It's amazing. Yesterday, when I was speaking, we were speaking about senior citizens, which I am one. But what's interesting is often when you're talking about aging in place and seniors, I see a lot of the technology brands just making assumptions that aren't true. I see members of society making these assumptions. You can't look at all of the aging members of our society, and it's significant, and decide none of them know how to use a computer, for example, that we're laggers. No, we're not laggers. In my part of the baby boomer population, we actually had computers. We got the first computers, the Commodores. We didn't grow up with them at birth, but they were actually part of society as we were growing up. So I was telling the telecommunications brands that I was talking to that you have to once again design for humans. Think about it like you're saying, from the different senses. Don't only think of it as a compliance issue that you go back and fix, but you are going to have to go back and fix, as you said, Arslan. You are going to, because when 28% of your population is over 65, which Japan's getting there, you better have accessible technology. You better have smart cities. You really have to design with changing humans in mind. And that's something I don't even understand, Arslan, why we don't do that. Why would we? Because I was talking to somebody in the military the other day, the US military, about accessible metaverses. And he said, yeah, you don't really need an accessible metaverse with the military, because the ones we're going to build are just for our enlisted people, and they don't have disabilities. And it's, yes, they do. Yes, 80% of our community have invisible disabilities, but at the same time, they also acquire disabilities often. So why not just design everything to work for everybody? I still don't understand. It's not too hard. Not, as you said, Arslan, not if you do it right at the beginning. It just scares me when I see leaders not even wanting to change the way we've been doing things and breaking things. And I think that's why you really stood out to me, because we met because of Connect Aid, which we both believe in as well.
Absolutely.
But it is interesting, Ari, Arslan, many of the efforts that are being made for great social change are not getting funded.
Mhm.
So I just wondered if you wouldn't mind talking about that a little bit, because you're pulling together amazing people, but where are the investors?
I think that the real problem in the world is the lack of sense of priority. Again, going back to how cities are designed, if you think about a city in today's world, when you talk about a city, you're really talking about a marketplace. It's not even an ecosystem anymore. It's a trade show. And just like any other marketplace, where at the center, there's a number that needs to grow. So the entire attention is to grow that number bigger. And we have policies around it and technologies around it and science, then humans, then finally nature. And that's how we prioritize resources, right? And we get addicted to that number because it's also gives us more dopamine, so that when the number goes up, we're happy. When it goes down, we're sad. So we become addicted to that vicious cycle. And I believe that we need to just flip that. We need to put nature at the center, then human beings, then science, then technology, then policy, then finally economy. And that's going to give us a good sense of priority to see where we need to prioritize our resources and how we can design our systems so that they are more inclusive and more sustainable.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I know that you are bringing together some really amazing people, and also people that aren't maybe noticed as much in society. Some leaders. I know you had a call the other day, and I was very impressed with the different people that I met. And I don't know how you're doing that, but you just seem to be very globally connected.
Yeah, I do have a really good network. And what's unique about our network is we're not just business partners. We're like brothers and sisters. We're like friends. That all of us, again, have that sense of urgency and see that we don't really have time anymore. With the way the climate is changing, and with all this geopolitical crisis and all this different sort of crisis overlapping one another, we don't really have time. We're getting to a point where the damages we are doing to our environment are becoming irreversible. So we just get together and put our toolboxes together, put our thoughts together, and try to come up with solutions that can to be just part of the solution. That's, I guess, more than enough. If all of us can just try to be part of the solution and not be part of the problem, we can change things.
I agree. And I also want to note that you are in Silicon Valley.
Correct.
And I will say that, and this isn't fair because I'm just lumping everybody together, but Silicon Valley is often seen as not being very focused on the things you're talking about, social good. They definitely have a very bad reputation of being only about money and greed. And I know that's unfair. I know it's unfair. I know that some of that is true, but I also think there's probably a lot of innovation continuing to come out of Silicon Valley. But I'm curious what you're seeing, Arslan, because you're actually there.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings because I do see really great social entrepreneurs who are doing everything they can to provide solutions. But on the other hand, again, it's just a matter of who makes more money at the end of the day. So that's what kind of, again, lack of priority. I think that's really the root cause, is not having a sense of priority of where we want to put our resources. So if just a little bit of the resources that we just waste would be invested to make our cities more accessible, or to make the web more accessible, or the internet more accessible, we could have a lot of more people participating in the economy, in everything, in every aspect of life.
Solving
problems. Yeah.
Somebody with autism could be fantastic at solving complicated problems that others can't solve. That's what my work is, really trying to convince society that just because you lose a sense or you're born with a disability doesn't mean you can't add any value. Maybe you're perfect because you were born without sight. Maybe you're the perfect person to solve these problems. So and I know that one of the questions that we had talked about asking was, what is your superpower? And one thing I love about that is that I remember when Greta Thunberg was being harassed because she had autism. And she's, hey, autism is my superpower. And I'm hoping more people will want to really say, wait a minute, what is it? Could my superpower be that I'm neurodiverse and I'm ADHD? So I'm so hyper. I channel it all into wanting to make a difference for my community of people with disabilities and older people now. But how can we tap more into all of our superpowers? And then as you're doing, Arslan, pull those superpowers together to have social impact.
Yeah, hopefully. I personally think that my main superpower is my intention. Everything I do with good intentions, and I think good intention brings attraction, and attraction brings attention. If you have good intentions, then you attract the right people, the right resources, and you can actually do what you're here to do. So I think that's really the biggest superpower I have is my intention. So that's something you can't lie about, right? You can't pretend to have good intentions and not have it.
I agree. I would also say your superpower is connecting other leaders, because I think you're very good at that. So just giving you another superpower. So, Arslan, I know you do care about our community because you're a supporter of Billion Strong, but what do you have to say to the Billion Strong community? And once again, there are 1.7 billion people living with lived experience with disabilities. And we believe those numbers are underrepresented because so many countries don't do census. And also 80% of our community have invisible disabilities, and they might not even realize they're part of our community. But I know that this is something that you do care about. And when you heard me complaining one time about a system that wasn't accessible, that's when you invited us to get involved in what Symphony was doing, which I appreciated that. But it's something that has to be built into the process. And I know you know that, so that we're not, as you said before, fixing it later, which is so expensive and so unfair to the people that were excluded as well. But let me turn it over to you for some comments.
Well, so first of all, I think that we each have a very unique fingerprint. We also each have a very unique operating system. And human operating system is something we never talk about. We talk about our body, we talk about our mind, but we don't talk about the operating system that kind of connects the two together. And again, I believe that we each have a very unique operating system. And having a different operating system doesn't mean you're disabled. I'm extremely against that label. I never like to call people disabled because, again, either we are all disabled or none of us are disabled. We can't just box some of the people into. And again, going back to my own profession, I think it's the medical model of disability is causing many of these problems because we say people are disabled by their impairments or differences, and the medical system looks at what is wrong with that person and wants to treat it and wants to change it, whereas that's just not the right way of looking at things. I think, again, we are all different, and those differences need to be embraced. And again, no matter what they tell you or how they want to label you, don't see yourself as disabled, see yourself as very unique, with a very unique operating system, and find your superpowers. And again, I always use this analogy that if like you and I walk into a town that is built for blind people, you and I are considered disabled because we don't know how to get around, because that environment is not designed for us. So we can have disabling environments, but we can't have disabled. Again, it's really the design of our environment that makes some people disabled. And if we could just, again, design, it's all about design.
And it is. And it is, because what I hear so many times, and when I was growing up, I hear people say this to me all the time. I grew up and I was in a wheelchair, now it's this, but I just felt totally included. It was when I got out of college, or I left my house, I became an adult, society started telling me I was broken. And society, I didn't know it, but society disables people. And I agree with what you're saying. Poor design. And it's just so important that we all be included. But okay, so let me ask you an important question. If there are people on the call that want to help, they want to be investors, they want to join your efforts, how can people reach out to you to get part of Symphony? Also, if there's people that are thinking about doing these projects, I would recommend they reach out to you to become, because you've really put together an incredible global team, people from all over the world. It's just really amazing. But how could people come in and help support what you're trying to do? I consider you the orchestra
Thank
leader.
you.
So how do we all come forward and support what you're trying to do so that we all
Well,
benefit
thank
from
you
it?
for that. So, as we are building a global task force, and it's a growing community. And again, we have technologists, scientists, policy experts, and social entrepreneurs all working together. So if you're working on solutions that you think could plug into our ecosystem and be part of the future, be part of solutions for future cities to be more inclusive, sustainable, and smarter, feel free to reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm accessible on LinkedIn and also on Twitter. So just feel free to reach out, and we'll see where we can plug your solution and how to organize the task force based on the additional piece of the puzzle that you bring to the picture.
And we definitely have pieces of the puzzle missing because we're redesigning society. That's what's happening right now. And so it's very important in it. And Arslan is on LinkedIn, but if you want to come to me and say, connect me, I'm also happy to do it. But he's very easy to find on LinkedIn and Twitter. And investors, if you're out there listening, you want to have social impact. This is real social impact. I'm really excited about what they're doing. But also corporations, anybody that's in a gigantic corporation, you can support too. You can support what we're doing as well. I think coming together and collaborating is just so important. But Arslan, let me ask you one final question. If you had a magic wand and you could look into the future and see where we went, what would it look like to you?
So I always like to see, like whenever I think of the future, the first thing that comes to my mind is nature. The way we have disconnected ourselves from nature is just really bad. And I think that's another root cause of most of the problems we have. So if we could just find a way to start living harmoniously and in harmony with the rest of this ecosystem, I think most of our problems would be solved. Because it's not just about us. We always talk about human beings, but we have 9 million other species living on this planet together with us. And we almost always, they're not even part of the equation anymore. So
I know, it's amazing.
So I would really love us human beings to get to a point where we start respecting ourselves, we start respecting our environment, and we start respecting the rest of the habitats on Earth.
Yeah, all of the earthlings. A mosquito is an earthling. We're earthlings here. I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of what you're doing. You weren't willing to just sit back and let somebody else solve it. So I appreciate your global work, your leadership, and that you're really fighting for all of us. And I know my community at Billion Strong really appreciates what you're doing. Once again, tell us how we can get a hold of you. Do you have a website? You don't have a website right now.
We are building the website. So we want to first finalize the task force and do some of the work before the website is online. It's under construction, so we're building it now. But again, LinkedIn would be the right place.
Right. I agree. And so many of my conversations happen on LinkedIn anyway. So at LinkedIn or Twitter. But yeah, so thank you. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. And I'm glad that you learned to be a doctor and then took it and it's really growing really big. It's all about social impact. And I really appreciate what you're doing. And I'm hoping you'll come back on in a little while and give our audience an update too, because this is just the start.
Thank you so much, Debra.
Okay. All right. So I'll say goodbye to everybody, and we'll also make sure we give you his information so we make it very easy for you to connect with him. So thanks to the audience, and thank you, Arslan. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.
You've been listening to Human Potential at Work. To learn more about Rue Global Impact, visit rueglobal.com. And to learn more about Billion Strong, an identity and empowerment organization designed to bring the billions of voices of persons with disabilities together, you can join the global community and donate at billion-strong.org. That's billion-strong.org.